What can grip strength tell you about guitar, and will knowing where your grip is the strongest help you improve your playing? For this experiment, my main tool was this, a dynamometer. It's a grip strength measuring tool. It's used by physical therapists usually, and all it does is measure your grip strength in pounds or kilograms. And I measured mine in pounds because I'm an American. So all you do is grip it, and it tells you your grip strength. And to find out how grip strength relates to guitar, I tested my grip in 4 different positions, going from low to high, or high to low depending on the day. I alternated each day to try not to skew my results in one way or another. And I also mimicked the hand positions in each hand that would relate to guitar playing. So for my right hand, I gripped the dynamometer as if I was picking in the same hand position, like this. And for my left hand, I gripped it as if I was playing the neck of a guitar, with my palm facing upwards, like this. The first position that I measured was with completely straight arms. And this is as low as my strap can go, and it's a little bit higher than the actual position I measured, but that's about as low as anyone would ever place their guitar. The second position was halfway between completely straight arms and a 90-degree angle in the arm, so that would be about here, which is quite low but more playable than the first. The third position I measured was with arms slightly above 90-degree angles, which would correspond to a strap height of about here. And the final position, position 4, is roughly here, which is a very high strap position. And I didn't actually reference these positions with anything but my own body, and I tried to be as consistent as possible. So once again, position 1, position 2, position 3, and position 4, which is about as much as I could raise my arms up comfortably without pressing into my biceps. I filmed my last day of this experiment, and here's that footage sped up. On this day I started in position 4, which is the high position, and worked my way to the bottom. I would usually stretch out a little bit between each grip, and then write down my results on the computer. And here are the results of my experiment. It was 20 days long. I didn't do it every single day for 20 days, but it was all done within a couple months. And in green are the maximum grips from each hand, which were both in position 2. And in red are the weakest grips on each hand in position 3 on the left and position 4 on the right. And I have all my averages on the right and also the standard deviations of each position. Here's a graph of my daily averages over the course of this experiment, from day 1 on the left to day 20 on the right. As you can see, my average grip strength went from between 130 to 140 on day 1 to about 150 to 160 on day 20. And there are a few reasons for this. The first being that my technique for gripping actually improved over time. And I figured out better ways to actually get higher numbers, which I knew would lead to more variance in my data, but it's just part of the learning experience of doing any activity. You're going to get better as you do it more, and I hadn't done it that much up to this point. And the other thing is I just got stronger by doing those grips every day, and I had started going to the gym again after lockdown. This is probably the most important graph of all because it shows the averages of each position in each hand, and the little lines that are coming out of each bar are the 95% confidence intervals of that data. Now, this is where I made my mistake in my original upload, because I calculated this incorrectly. I used the standard deviation of each set of data to calculate the confidence interval for that data, but actually you need to calculate the standard error, and to do that you divide the standard deviation by the square root of the number of samples in that population. And I have to say a big thank you to my good friend Adam Gayoso for helping me correct this mistake. He's a PhD student at UC Berkeley, and he's very good at statistics. And to calculate the 95% confidence interval for a given set of data, you multiply the standard error times 1.96, and you add and subtract that number from the average, and you have the confidence interval. And what it actually means is that there's a 95% chance that the actual average of the data is in that range. I had originally overcalculated the confidence intervals, and they almost all overlapped, even at a 68% confidence interval. And if two confidence intervals overlap, that means that they aren't statistically different from each other, which is what I was trying to prove. But I was happy to learn that I was wrong and calculate them correctly. You can see that the confidence intervals of positions 1 and 2 in each hand do overlap. I ran a t-test between groups 3 and 4 on each hand, and a t-test is a statistical test done to see if two groups are different from each other in this case. And I calculated that the p-value was 0.02. With a p-value of 0.02, this means that the 95% confidence intervals don't actually overlap. The reason the confidence intervals overlap is because the calculation I used to get the confidence intervals is actually a slight overestimate, and it gets pretty complicated. But knowing this, I could still prove that there is a difference between these groups with a t-test. Here's a graph of a trial experiment that I did a few months before the actual experiment, and I did 40 grips in a single day, 10 in each position for each hand. And the data wasn't as good as my actual experiment, but it does show a similar result and a similar pattern. So to sum things up, I observed that positions 1 and 2 are roughly the same, and that they're the strongest positions, and also that there's a decrease from position 2 to 4 that's statistically significant. So somewhere in the range of position 2 to position 3, strength starts to drop off pretty dramatically, and there's also a significant difference between positions 3 and 4. It was also interesting to me that my grip strength is significantly stronger in my left hand than my right, and this makes sense because by gripping the neck of a guitar, I think that you're strengthening your fretting hand in a way that you don't strengthen your picking hand. I do have a hypothesis about what accounts for the differences in strength between these positions, and it's mainly based off of my experience doing this experiment, feeling different muscles being activated in different positions. This is something that you can test out right now. If you put your arm down to a straight position with your fist facing the floor and flex all the muscles you can in your arm, you can feel a lot of your tricep and your forearm being activated, but as you raise your arm up, you start to be able to activate more of your bicep. The higher you go up, the more bicep you're activating, the less tricep you're activating. And there's a point around position 2 in my experiment where basically I feel like the whole arm is being activated in a pretty even way. And I think that this is why that position seemed to be the strongest. I thought it would be a good idea to quickly go through some pictures of well-known shredders playing live to see what their strap positions are like. So Steve Vai has his strap at like a medium height between probably positions 2 and 3. Yngwie, similar. This is Jari Manpa from Wintersun, also very similar. This is Teemu Mantusari from Wintersun, possibly even a little bit lower, but similar. Mikael Ackerfeldt, not the most shreddy guitar player, but a great guitar player nonetheless, Also very similar, maybe a bit higher. Alexi Laiho, may he rest in peace. Also very similar, pretty low, left arm at about a 90-degree angle. This is Mario Camarena from Chon, and his strap's super high, but given his music it makes sense because he has to play a lot of really stretched out crazy chords and he does a lot of tapping, and especially for tapping I think it is beneficial to have your strap up higher. And then finally, here's Chris Broderick, pretty similar to Steve Vai and a lot of the others here, with like a medium to low strap position. In reality, grip strength is only one factor when you're playing guitar. The other very important factor, not the only other factor, but a very important factor, is hand freedom. I'm talking in this case about whichever hand that you fret the guitar with. So if I were to put my strap as low as it can go again, I can manage to play power chords no problem. And if that's all you're doing, a low strap position may help you a lot. It may be the most comfortable one because, as I observed in this experiment, up to a certain point, your grip is better lower down. But if you try to play something like this with a big stretched out chord, it becomes very uncomfortable and you have to do weird things with your body to make it playable. So there is a point where the guitar can become too low, and it really depends what style of music you're playing. If you're only playing power chords, it's great to have the guitar down super low, it's comfortable, and it looks cool. So by raising my strap up a little bit, now I'm able to play chords like this, big stretched out crazy things, without too much discomfort. And it really is hitting that sweet spot between grip strength and hand freedom that everyone needs to find for themselves. And that's really the main point I'd like people to take away from this video, is finding the sweet spot between those two factors. And also just simply experiment. And I think people do this naturally, but knowing for a fact that grip strength is better at a certain point does help me, at least, figure out that perfect sweet spot, and gives me confidence that I'm not just doing it for no reason, that there's actually some scientific basis for me to be putting my guitar at a certain height. Everyone's going to have a different perfect strap height. It matters what you're trying to play, the style of music that you play, and even aesthetics. Some people just prefer a lower or higher strap for whatever reason, and that's okay. If you like this video, please subscribe and like. I'll definitely be making more videos like it in the future. Leave me a comment with some feedback on what you think about all this. And also I would love any suggestions on other videos that I could make exploring guitar concepts with science. It was a lot of fun for me to do this. I learned a lot. I hope you learned something as well. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.